name is Shanna Toft, and I was just interviewed by Keith Andrew. I want to tell you, you've got to get on this show. Keith is disabled, but there is no disability in his ability to do these interviews. He is down to earth. He is professional. He is wonderful. He doesn't pull any punches. He gets down to the nitty gritty, lets you talk your truth, and you've got to get on this show. Stay tuned for our next segment.
Gentlemen, my name is Keith Andrew, and I'm here as a talented and beautiful Shanna Toft. And I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on today.
No, the honor's all mine. For people who want to know what my talk show is about, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, if you can pick that up by butchering your name, the whole point of my talk show is to show people with a disability I can still amount to something, and at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. It's to prove to them is to amount to something. So hashtag break the label. So that being said, it will be a half hour of your time, freedom of speech, self-expression. Say anything you want, PG-13. And starting off, you have a lot of great things I'd like to talk to you about. You know, you are a professional actor, director, model. And the two things that caught my interest is you're a executive producer.
Yes.
And also a social media manager. So let's start off with that one. You know, my first question is, I try to change it up to format. So let's have fun with this. So the first question is social media. Can social media make you or break you with everything that you accomplish in your life? From being an actor, producer, a model, do these things dictate if people should work with you or if people should follow you?
Absolutely. And as anybody in the entertainment industry, it is so important to have all the social media out there, especially Instagram. If you are an actor or a model, people look at Instagram so much. And the more followers that you have, the more people are going to say, hey, this person is legit and I want to work with this person. And they want to see that you are somewhat of an influencer on Instagram. Maybe not so much on Twitter, but it is important to have a Twitter account going as well. Facebook also. So you're reaching all of the demographics out there. There are some kind of spin-off social media like Snapchat and Google Plus and things like that. But the ones that you really seriously need to hit are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, because the more followers you have, the more your name stays relevant and the more people are going to be looking at what you're doing out there and saying, hey, this person is somebody that I really want to get to know, that I really want to book on things, that I really want to work with in different areas.
No, absolutely. And what can you tell us about being a social media manager?
You know, it's easy, but it's not. I also am the web developer for this new series that's coming out. It's called Brother Bones, and it's based on a book, a comic book series. And so I am currently in the process of developing their website. Like I got the domain name brotherboneseries.com, got that registered. I've got the content capabilities, and it is a work in progress right now, and that itself takes a whole lot of time. But managing the social media, you basically just need to set up the account and make sure that you have enough posts on there to maintain interest, but not so many that you're bombarding people and just annoying them to death. So for example, with Brother Bones, we're going to be doing some crowdfunding. And so like right now, I'm just putting little feelers out there on the social media, on Instagram and Twitter, and then making various Facebook posts on my personal page. I've got a fan page and a personal page. So my fan page is, Facebook.com/IMDb Shanna Toft, and that's SHANNATOFT. And so you can follow what I'm doing there as well. I do have some things with We Welcome Guests, which I'm executive producing on there. And most recently, I've got the Brother Bones announcements on my fan page and on my personal page on Facebook. And then I set up separate Twitter and Instagram accounts in addition to my own Twitter and Instagram accounts that I am managing and putting posts out there, just starting to gain the interest in the series. We haven't actually started filming yet. I am not an actor in the series, and that's totally fine because there are lots of different areas in this industry where, you can be an actor and still be a director, still be a producer, still be a social media manager. There's so much work out there if you know where to find it. So with this series, I actually did the Dallas 48 competition with the director and producer of the series. And so I saw a post on social media that they were looking for someone to help create content and do some sketches and things like that too. And so I responded. I was like, hey, I worked with you guys last year. I know this person. I'd like to introduce you to this person who's in the comic book industry. So it really matters who you know, for one thing. But I introduced this comic book person to the writer and the director and producer of the series that's coming out. And so they got to talking and everything. And then I was talking to the director and producer about their social media, and they saw that they checked, my history and everything. I have 2 master's degrees, one's in management, one's in marketing, and the other one is in accounting. And so they're like, well, we want you to use your marketing degree. Let's interview you for the social media manager. And so we had a Zoom chat, and I was hired then. So I've been working on that for about a week and gaining interest with the Brother Bones series.
No, absolutely. And if you're interested, I would love to work with you. I've been trying to get myself out there more, get more viewers and followers. Maybe you can point me in the right direction.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, there are ways to schedule posts automatically for your social media accounts. The website, of course, isn't really going to be automated, but there are fairly inexpensive ways to get a domain hosted, and then once you get that domain hosted, you've got to have a way to put the content on there. So if I'm going to build a website completely from scratch, it's going to cost a whole lot more for me to input all of that HTML and RSS than it is for me to use templates and make modifications if I need to. So for this particular project, we agreed I'm going to use templates to make it a little bit easier. I can put the graphics on there. I can develop the content and that sort of thing. So it is a lucrative little side gig going on there too, and it's to have those contacts out there.
No, absolutely. For me, I already have a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Tumblr. I have my own website. I have domain names, YouTube. Pretty much I'm like a bad rash. If you look, you can find it. So I don't know if it's too much, but every time there's a social media, I'm right on there. I fill it out. And it's just like one of those things. It's kind of like, I have 1,000 on Facebook. I have 1,000 on Twitter and YouTube. So in total, it's like 3,000. But it's kind of like, I feel like I have to chase people and be like, it's like, hey, it's me, it's me. But at the same time, it's kind of like, who the hell is this person?
Right. Well, I mean, just be careful with, putting quality content out there. You don't want to be like, hey, I had bread and butter pickles for a little snack or whatever. Like, people aren't going to relate to something like that necessarily. But if you've got a project going on, and you're posting directly about that project, then that's going to resonate a whole lot more with people, it'll start generating the interest, and then they'll want to follow and say, hey, you know, what are you doing today on this? What are you doing next week on this? So it's good to have that social media out there for sure, and get into just about every outlet that you can. Just make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself with it, because it can become a full-time job just to maintain all of that. And you don't want to miss a social media outlet. You know, like you might post on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and forget about the Tumblr or something like that. And then if you have followers on the Tumblr and they're not getting the constant updates, then, you know, they're kind of left in the dark a little bit. So just make sure that it's a manageable amount.
No,
and
absolutely.
And you're not just overloading people with too much information. You know, I would limit probably to 3 tweets a day, or, you know, 3 posts a day, in the very beginning, like before the project actually gets started. Just, you know, hey, just want to keep you updated on what's happening here. And then if you've got some kind of crowdfunding going on, of course, you're going to want to increase the amount of posts on there. And then once the project actually gets going, you're going to want to have regular intervals of posts, you know, just updating without going against any non-disclosure agreement, because you have to honor the secrecy of the project until it's okay and it's been released, and then you can get more information.
No, absolutely. And for me, I have my top 3, but I always use, you know, most recently it has been Instagram, but I do use Facebook and Twitter. It's great to have, like I said, have yourself out there on all of it, but you should not overwhelm yourself. So yeah, right. For me, I have my top 3 or my top 4, you know, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Once a day, I would do, like, you know, fan of the day, or recently I made, I don't know if you're sure, I made, trying to think of everything, Ms. Marvel. You know, I made like a Dragon Ball Z with special effects. So once a day I put something out right there, or usually I do like a fan of the day. So at least once or twice a day, I post something on all the social media. So it is active. But the thing is, I don't have a guest every single day. So when I do have a guest, I do promote that.
Well, that's really great, because you're not bombarding people with, you know, too much information. You've got quality content going out there, because that guest of the day is something that's going to pique the interest of your followers out there, and they'll want to know, hey, what is that person saying today? What can I glean from that person's information? You know, do I want to follow that person too? It's mutually beneficial to do it that way, so that you maintain that interest all around.
No, absolutely. And we can always talk about it off the air. But the next question I want to ask you is, you are I'm having a brain fart. You are a executive producer.
That's actually for an international film. And I'm on IMDb Pro. Of course, I have my own IMDb page, but I wanted to be able to see the casting notices, so I'm on the Pro side of it as well. And there was a casting notice for an international film, and it is union, and it's called We Welcome Guests. And so I submitted for one of the lead roles in that film. I can't say too much about it because it hasn't started filming yet. But I also broke protocol and reached out on social media to the writer, director, producer, and befriended that person, got to know that person through the social media. And I was asked to first do a voiceover for the promo for it, for the movie, and then I was asked to be an executive producer for the movie. So when it does come out, then I will get a cut of the profits that it makes. So I've got the actor side going on, I've got the voiceover side going on, and I've got the executive producer side going on. So it's a win-win-win situation with all of that. And I was actually talking with the individual who created We Welcome Guests. So I was chatting earlier today about another movie that's going to be coming out. So things are looking like I may be executive producing that one as well.
No, that's amazing, and definitely send us the photos, and I will definitely promote it on your side. And actually, we can always talk about that off the air. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back to the show, I'm going to ask you about, have you ever worked with people with disabilities? And then I'm going to pass it over to you.
Hi, I'm Paisley Blackburn.
I'm Ashley Burgess.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Abney.
Hi, I'm Sharon Spank.
Hey, this is Samantha Moore.
Hi, I'm Melody Jones.
Hi, my name is Becky Yee.
Hi, you're watching the Keith Andrew Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Shanna Toft, and now it's the last 13 minutes left of the show. I'm going to ask you 2 hard-hitting questions, and I'm going to pass it over to you. The first one is, apparently you're working with me, and thank you for that. Have you ever worked with people with learning disabilities, and are you willing to work with people with disabilities?
Absolutely. I haven't encountered that in the entertainment industry. I'm sorry. I have not encountered that in the entertainment industry in film and television yet, but I have absolutely no issue with working with somebody who has disabilities. I was a high school teacher, and I am special ed certified, and I worked with students with disabilities on a daily basis. Like I taught math, and I would go into the different math classrooms and work with those students individually. But I had 24 students officially assigned to me, but I wound up, helping everybody in the whole class. But my specific students would come to me for tutorials and things like that, and I helped them get through their high school years so that they could better comprehend their math. I also have a son who is permanently disabled. He suffered a traumatic brain injury, and he has Asperger's. So it's been interesting growing up with someone, or having someone grow up in my household who has disabilities as well. So I've been around it for quite some time, and it's no issue whatsoever for me to work with anyone with any kind of disability.
No, absolutely. And I do have some great ideas for you off the air, but they're actually just throw one out at you. Have you ever thought about being a brand ambassador? For people with disabilities, that thought is a new one to me, and I definitely would consider being a brand ambassador for a group like that, for sure. Absolutely. Well, if you're interested, I'm always looking for people who want to help me represent my brand and help me share more awareness. So if you're interested, I would love to work with you.
Sure thing. Absolutely.
The other question I was going to ask you, you mentioned you were also a director. First question I want to ask you is, everything that you read about me, do you think I would be a good fit to have a film or short series? What is your opinion about me and the Keith Andrew Network? And also, what were some of your favorite things you ever directed? I know you mentioned a couple in the beginning. Oh, is there any ones that stand out the most?
Well, I actually prefer to be in front of the camera, but being behind the camera, I directed a creature feature called Killa, and that, being a director is pretty challenging. You have to deal with a lot of last minute changes. Sometimes your actors don't show up for whatever reason, and you have to recast immediately, or somebody's being a diva or whatnot, and you have to deal with that attitude issue, or they don't quite understand what you want them to do for the particular scene. So it is a pretty big challenge, and it's definitely not for everyone, but there are very, very successful directors who are super, super nice, and there are very successful directors who are super, super cutthroat. You know, they don't spare anybody's feelings, and you have to be able to effectively communicate to your actors and your crew members, you know, what specifically you want to have happen. It is a very, very challenging thing to direct. Short or a feature-length film or a TV series or web series. It's extremely challenging. I learned so much actually as an actor by being a director, and I got a lot of pointers from my acting coach, who is Glenn Morshower. Glenn has been in like everything I've ever watched in my entire life, pretty much. That man, he was on 24. He was Agent Pierce on 24 for 7 years with Kiefer Sutherland, and he's been in like all kinds of other things. He's been on all of the Transformers movies, and you know, on various other TV shows and films and whatnot. But he gave me a ton of pointers, and I applied those pointers to directing, and I still faced so many challenges. But I do understand why directors make the money that they do, because it's not as easy as memorizing a script and the blocking and delivering the truth. You've got to pay so much attention to so many different things when you're directing. I would have to say it's one of the most difficult things to do in the film industry. But I feel like you definitely would be a good candidate for getting your feet wet with it. See if you like it. See if it's something that you would want to pursue. I definitely encourage everyone to take a shot at directing. You know, it is something that a person with disabilities can absolutely do. Absolutely. Just don't get discouraged with it. Stick through it, and when you see your finished product, you're going to be so proud and say, hey, like, I did that. That was a huge challenge, but I did that. I brought that to life. This was my vision for how I wanted everything to look in those scenes, and this is what we brought forth, and it's all pieced together, and it's something I had a really big hand in. So yeah, absolutely. I would definitely encourage you to take a shot at it.
And the last question I was going to ask you, and I'll pass the show over to you, is you mentioned you like being in front of the camera. So what about, actually, let's do like a two-parter. First one is, what do you like about being an actress? And have you ever done any voiceovers? That's part one.
Okay. What I love about being an actress is that I get to bring other people's ideas to life and deliver the truth through my filter of interpretation. There's a little part of myself in every character that I portray, but there's also becomes a little part of each of those characters that folds into my personality. So like every character that I've been in my entire life since I was little bitty, I went from stage plays to film and television. So I've got a lot of different characters going on in this persona of mine. But I put myself into the characters, but I bring the characters into myself as well. So a lot of my own identity falls within bits and pieces of those characters, but I also kind of get to live vicariously through those characters without being a part of the actual life. So, you know, if I'm feeling a certain, you know, sense of adventure with one production, then, you know, in my mind, I can actually live that out, and it may or may not be something I would ever actually do, but I get to fully imagine, because I've got to be familiar with that character's background and what that character is feeling and doing, and, you know, reacting to things like that. And so it brings me so much joy, so much peace, so much excitement to be able to live out the different characters emotions and experiences. And it's just, I don't know, there's something about being able to become a completely different person and then revert back to myself at the end of the day that is just, it's a thrill. It's a complete adrenaline rush, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
No, absolutely. And what about voiceovers? Have you ever done any?
I have not, simply because I don't have the specialized equipment that is needed in my home studio yet. But I would love to be like a cartoon character in a television series, or even in an animated film. I think that would be a whole lot of fun. Or like even there are voiceovers in different commercials and things like that. But what I would really like to do in the voiceover world is be a cartoon character. I think that's a whole lot of fun.
Well, we can. I do have some ideas for you. I do a lot of fan-made parodies for fun, so we can definitely talk about that off the air. But the last question I want to ask you, then passing the show over to you, was the last 2 minutes left, is for someone who wants to follow in your footsteps, who has any types of learning disabilities, being an actor, a director, a model, executive producer, and a social media producer, what would some of your words of wisdom and some of your advice you would give them? Passing the show over to you.
Absolutely. It is imperative to make quality connections. It matters who you know and how you know that person. So you want to do everything that you can to be relevant in the eyes and ears of people who can help you with your future. So, build those relationships. You're more than likely, like most people start out small. They do work as an extra. They get the familiarity on set. Modeling is the same way. You do a photo shoot here and there, but you start to develop those relationships. It's relationship equity is so important, because it makes you more memorable, rather than, oh hey, I just showed up today, put me in this, put me in that, blah blah blah. No, if you develop a real connection with the people on the set, they're going to remember you a whole lot better. And the more that they can see you, and the people in the industry talk to each other. They talk a lot to each other. Different directors, different producers, they're talking. And there will be times, when once you build those initial relationships, there will be times where they'll be talking and they'll be like, oh hey, I need this person over here for my project. Do you have this person's contact information? Or, hey, I've worked with that person. I really want to work with that person again. And you'll get to a point through those connections where you don't even have to audition anymore, because they already know you. They know what you're going to bring to the table. For example, I just got cast last week in a feature film called Texas Kill City, and I am going to have a speaking role as a police officer in that feature film. I never auditioned for that. It's because I worked previously last year on another film called Insincere Twins with the writer, director, producer of that film. And so he posted something out there about Texas Kill City, and all I said was, that's awesome, keep us posted. And then he contacted me and was like, hey, do you want to be a police officer? I was like, yes, of course. Absolutely. I would love to work with you again. So, disability or ability, whatever your situation is, it's very, very important for you to develop and maintain those strong connections with people in the industry. And you'll go a whole lot farther than somebody just out there who put in for a role, cold. Relationship equity is definitely the key to being successful in this industry. And you got to bring the talent too, but relationship equity gets you in the door so much quicker.
No, absolutely. Now I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But my last two questions, so wrapping up. Actually, let's do that around. Usually I ask this for my very last question. I always have fun with this. When I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your honest first reaction? What made you say yes, and how do you feel now?
Well, when you first, I think it was about a year ago that you first wanted to have me on the show, and my schedule was it was crazy busy, but I was thrilled that we were trying to find a time for me to get on your show. I was booked and booked and booked and booked and booked, and I'm really glad that during this time, I think COVID kind of helped chill out the schedule a little bit, and so I'm glad to be getting back on set, really soon, but I'm also glad that I've had this opportunity to actually be on your show since things are a little bit slower right now. I'm thrilled to death to be on your show, and just reading about you a little bit too. I think it's amazing that you're out there and making a difference and being an advocate for people with disabilities. So I'm honored that you asked me to be on your show, and I'm really glad to be here today.
No, absolutely. I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road. And how can people follow you on social media?
I am on Facebook, facebook.com/IMDb Shanna Toft. That's IMDb SHANNATOFT. I'm on IMDb as well. It's imdb.me/Shanna Toft, SHANNATOFT. And I'm on Instagram at Shanna Toft, SHANNATOFT. And then I'm on Twitter, not as much, at Shanna Toft 2, SHANNATOFT2 on Twitter. So I can be followed at any of those places. I am mostly on Facebook and Instagram.
No, absolutely. Now stay tuned for off the air. I do have a couple questions for you. But wrapping up, it was a real honor and my dog's scratching up doors. She's breaking my concentration. Stay tuned for off the air. I do have a couple questions for you. It's a real honor and privilege to have you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.